The Great Hall of the Galactic Council stretched before Daniel Harris like a cathedral built for gods. 47 different species filled the chamber, each one representing a civilization that had mastered space travel before humans had even discovered fire. The air hummed with translation devices working overtime, converting thousands of languages into comprehensible speech. Daniel stood at the center of it all, feeling very small and very human. Beside him, Commander Lisa Grant kept her expression neutral, but Daniel could see the tension in her shoulders. They had traveled 3 months to reach this place, crossing half the galaxy to make their petition. Earth needed allies. The Devourers were coming, a force that consumed everything in their path, and humanity could not face them alone. High Counselor Vrex of the Zynthian Confederacy looked down at Daniel from his crystalline seat. The alien's body seemed to be made of living light, shifting between colors that Daniel had no names for. When Vrex spoke, his voice carried the weight of 10,000 years of civilization. "So the humans have come to beg for protection," Vrex said. Laughter rippled through the chamber. "Tell us, Ambassador Harris, what does Earth offer in exchange for our alliance? What can a species barely 2 centuries into space travel possibly contribute to civilizations that have existed for millennia?" Daniel had prepared for this question. He had practiced his answer 100 times on the journey here. But standing before these ancient beings, he felt the inadequacy of his words even before he spoke them. "Earth offers dedication, innovation, and the will to fight," Daniel said, keeping his voice steady. "We may be young, but we have survived every challenge our world has thrown at us. We adapt, we overcome. We never surrender." More laughter. A massive creature that looked like a bear made of stone leaned forward. This was Thraknor, the Korthan Empire's representative. His species had conquered 17 star systems through military might alone. "You speak of fighting?" Thraknor's voice rumbled like an avalanche. "We have studied your military capabilities. Your weapons are chemical explosives and primitive lasers. Your ships move slowly through space like wounded animals. Your tactics are predictable, borrowed from ancient battles fought on your single planet. You are children playing with toys and calling it warfare." Daniel felt his face flush, but he maintained his composure. Lisa shifted beside him, ready to speak, but Daniel raised a hand slightly. This was his burden to carry. "We are young," Daniel admitted, "but youth brings fresh perspectives. We see problems differently than you do. We find solutions that ancient wisdom might overlook." A new voice entered the conversation. It came from a being that looked like smoke given form, one of the gaseous Velnari. "Fresh perspectives? We have 47 different perspectives in this chamber alone. What can humans possibly show us that we have not already discovered and refined over thousands of years?" Daniel opened his mouth to answer, but Vrex raised a glowing hand for silence. The High Counselor's expression, as much as Daniel could read alien features, seemed almost pitying. "Let me be clear, Ambassador Harris," Vrex said, his voice softer now but no less cutting. "We have observed humanity for the past century. We know your capabilities. Your fastest ships would take months to cross distances our vessels cover in days. Your weapons cannot penetrate shields that we consider obsolete. Your sensors cannot even detect our stealth technology when we observe you. By every measurable standard, humanity is not ready to stand among us." The insectoid Chithrax clicked their mandibles in what the translation device rendered as agreement. A floating crystalline being pulsed with light that meant the same thing. One by one, the species of the Galactic Council showed their consensus. Humanity was not worthy. Lisa finally spoke, her military training keeping her voice firm despite the humiliation. "The Devourers will reach human space in 3 months. Without help, Earth will fall. 17 colony worlds will be consumed. Billions will die. Does the Council truly value life so little that they would let this happen?" Thraknor stood, his massive form casting shadows across the chamber floor. "The Council values competence. If humanity cannot defend itself, perhaps humanity does not deserve to survive." "The galaxy is cruel, Commander. Only the strong endure." "That is not the Korthan Empire's final position," Vrex interjected quickly. "The Council has dealt with the Devourers before. When they enter Council space, we will engage and destroy them. Human worlds will be protected as a consequence of our actions, not because we choose to ally with Earth." Daniel felt something cold settle in his chest. "So humanity should simply hide and hope that you succeed?" "Precisely," Vrex said. "Your petition for alliance is denied. Earth may submit a new application in 50 years, once your civilization has matured sufficiently." Until then, the Council suggests you focus on evacuation protocols. When the Devourers arrive, flee. Let those capable of fighting handle the battle. The dismissal was complete. Daniel and Lisa were escorted from the chamber by silent guards whose species Daniel did not recognize. They walked through corridors that seemed to shift and change around them. Technology so advanced it might as well have been magic. Neither human spoke until they reached their ship, a small diplomatic vessel that looked primitive compared to everything else in the station's docking bay. Inside the ship, with the doors sealed and privacy assured, Lisa finally let her anger show. They think we are insects. Less than insects. Daniel sat heavily in the pilot's chair, suddenly exhausted. They think we are irrelevant. That is worse. So what do we do? Lisa asked. Return to Earth and tell them the Council refuses to help? Watch as the Devourers consume everything humanity has built? Daniel was quiet for a long moment, staring at the controls before him. Then he reached forward and activated a secure communication channel, one that used quantum encryption and protocols that the Council species had never seen, because humanity had developed them independently. This is Ambassador Harris, Daniel said into the channel. Authorization code Alpha 77 Zulu, confirm identity. A voice responded immediately. Identity confirmed, Ambassador. This is Captain Greg Mitchell aboard the Defiance. We have been monitoring your meeting. I assume the Council said no? They said we are children with toys, Daniel replied. They laughed at us, Captain. They mocked everything humanity has accomplished. There was a pause on the other end. When Mitchell spoke again, his voice carried an edge that Daniel had never heard before. Then I suppose it is time to show them what children can do when you back them into a corner. Ambassador, please transmit activation code Phantom. It is time for Phase 2. Daniel looked at Lisa. She nodded once, her expression hard. Daniel turned back to the communication panel and spoke clearly. Activation code Phantom confirmed. Captain Mitchell, you are authorized to proceed. Show them that humanity does not need permission to survive. Show them what we really are. Understood, Ambassador. All fleet units are standing by. Operation Phantom begins in 6 hours. By this time tomorrow, the Galactic Council will understand that they made a terrible mistake today. The channel closed. Daniel and Lisa sat in silence as their ship began its long journey back to Earth. Behind them, in the Great Hall of the Galactic Council, 47 species continued their business, confident in their superiority, unaware that humanity had just stopped asking for help and started taking matters into their own hands. The countdown had begun. Captain Greg Mitchell stood on the bridge of the HMS Defiance, watching the stars through the main viewport. Around him, his crew worked quietly at their stations, professionals who knew that history was about to be made. The bridge was small compared to Council vessels, cramped and efficient rather than grand. But it was human, built with human hands and human ingenuity, and right now that meant everything. Status report, Mitchell said, his voice calm despite the weight of what they were about to do. Lieutenant Kevin Barnes looked up from his tactical station. All 3,000 vessels confirm ready status, Captain. Every ship in the fleet is standing by for your command. Colony Defense Forces, exploration vessels, military patrol ships. Everyone answered the call. Mitchell nodded slowly. 3,000 ships. It was everything humanity had managed to build in 2 centuries of space travel. Every vessel that could mount a weapon or carry troops had been gathered for this moment. If this went wrong, humanity would be defenseless. But if they did nothing, they would be extinct. Communications, connect me to all ship commanders, Mitchell ordered. The communications officer, Paul Stevens, worked his controls. Channel open, Captain. All commanders are standing by. Mitchell took a breath. Somewhere across the galaxy, the Galactic Council was going about its business, confident that the problem of humanity had been dismissed and forgotten. They were wrong. He touched the communication panel. This is Captain Mitchell to all fleet units. In approximately 30 seconds, we will execute Operation Phantom. You all know what this means. We have tested this technology in small-scale experiments. We have run the simulations 1,000 times. But we have never attempted anything on this scale. What we are about to do is either going to change everything or destroy us all. He paused, looking around his bridge at the faces of his crew. Young faces, mostly. Humanity did not have ancient warriors with centuries of experience. They had volunteers, people who signed up because they believed in something bigger than themselves. The Council thinks we are primitive, Mitchell continued. They think our technology is crude and our tactics are simple. They are right about one thing. We are not like them. We did not spend 10,000 years perfecting energy weapons or gravitational drives. We spent 200 years desperately trying to survive in a universe that we barely understood. And in that desperation, we discovered something they never looked for. We found a different path through space, a path they cannot see because they never needed to look for it. Chief Engineer Amy Rodriguez watched her displays with nervous energy. The dimensional fold drive was her design, her life's work. On paper, it should work. In practice, they were about to find out if theory matched reality. "The Council will notice we are gone," Mitchell said to all the fleet commanders. "They will wonder where we went. Let them wonder. Let them search. Let them realize that humanity is not as simple as they thought. All ships on my mark activate dimensional fold drives. Transition to subspace fold on 3, 2, 1, mark." Throughout the fleet, engineers activated systems that rewrote the rules of physics as the Council understood them. The Defiance shuddered as her drives came online, and suddenly the stars looked different. They were still there, still visible, but somehow distant, as if viewed through a window that opened onto another version of reality. "Transition complete," Amy reported, her voice tight with tension. "All primary systems stable. Dimensional fold is holding. Captain, we did it. We are actually in subspace fold." Around them, 3,000 human ships had simply stopped existing in normal space. They had not moved. They had not cloaked. They had stepped sideways from reality itself, occupying a dimensional space that conventional sensors could not detect because those sensors were designed to see things that existed in normal space. Humanity existed somewhere else now. Kevin checked his tactical displays. "Sir, I'm monitoring Council sensor networks through our quantum taps. They are showing nothing. As far as their technology can tell, we simply ceased to exist. The entire human fleet just vanished from the galaxy." Mitchell allowed himself a small smile. "How long can we maintain this?" Amy consulted her engineering panels. "Unknown, sir. In theory, indefinitely, as long as we have power. In practice, the dimensional fold drives are using energy at a rate 40% higher than simulations predicted. We can maintain this for weeks, maybe months, before we need to return to normal space for maintenance and refueling." "Weeks will be enough," Mitchell said. "Navigation? Set course for observation point Delta 7. We will monitor Council space from subspace fold and wait for the Devourers to arrive. When the battle begins, we will show the Council what humanity can really do." Across the galaxy, chaos erupted in Council monitoring stations. Technicians stared at displays that showed impossible data. 3,000 vessels, tracked continuously for months, had disappeared simultaneously from every known form of detection. In his private chambers, High Counselor Vrex reviewed the reports with growing concern. His chief intelligence officer, Chimera, stood before him with an expression that Vrex had never seen on her face before. It was confusion mixed with something that might have been fear. "Explain this," Vrex demanded, gesturing at the displays.
"Where did the human fleet go?"
Chimera's color shifted to show uncertainty. "We do not know, High Counselor. One moment they were there, conducting standard patrol patterns around their colonies. The next moment, every ship disappeared simultaneously. No energy signatures, no warp transitions, no gravitational disturbances, nothing. Stealth technology?" Frex suggested, though he knew it was unlikely. "We have observed human stealth capabilities extensively," Chimera replied. "They use basic electromagnetic dampening. Effective against their own sensors, useless against ours. This is something else entirely. Our most advanced sensors show nothing, not even the shadow that a cloaked vessel would leave. It is as if the ship simply stopped existing in this dimensional space." Vrex felt something he had not experienced in a very long time. Doubt. Could they have been destroyed? Some kind of simultaneous malfunction? No debris. No energy release. No distress signals. 3,000 ships do not simply vanish without any trace unless someone wanted them to vanish. Word spread quickly through Council space. The young, primitive humans had done something that should have been impossible. Thraknor of the Korthan Empire dispatched spy ships to search human space, but they found nothing except confused human civilians who claimed to know nothing about their fleet's location. Trade continued normally. Colonies went about their daily business. But the military was simply gone. Aboard the Defiance, Mitchell watched Council ships searching desperately for any sign of the human fleet. He could see them clearly from subspace fold. They passed within meters of human vessels, their sensors sweeping through the space where the Defiance existed, but finding nothing. "This is actually working," Paul said quietly, almost unable to believe it. "They cannot see us at all. We are invisible to the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy." "Not invisible," Amy corrected. "We are in a different dimensional state. To them, we are not invisible. We are literally not there. Their sensors are working perfectly. They are just looking in the wrong dimension." Kevin pulled up a holographic display showing Council ship movements. "They are panicking, sir. Look at their search patterns. They are disorganized, desperate. They have no idea how to find something that exists outside their understanding of physics." Mitchell nodded. The plan was working better than he had hoped. The Council had dismissed humanity as primitive, but primitive and simple were not the same thing. Humanity had reached for the stars using different mathematics, different principles, different theories than the ancient species. While the Council had perfected travel through normal space over millennia, humanity had barely started exploring and had immediately looked for shortcuts, for different paths, for ways to achieve with innovation what they lacked in experience. "Maintain current position," Mitchell ordered. "All ships hold formation in subspace fold. The Devourers will arrive in 3 weeks according to our intelligence. When they do, the Council will try to fight them using conventional tactics. That is when we show them what unconventional warfare looks like." Lisa Grant's voice came through on a secure channel from her ship, the HMS Vindication. "Greg, the Council is going insane trying to find us. Should we send them a message? Let them know we still exist?" Mitchell considered the question. "No, let them wonder. Let them worry. Let them realize that they do not know everything. When we reveal ourselves, it will be on our terms, in our way, at the moment of our choosing. Until then, humanity is a ghost in the machine of galactic politics." In the Council chambers, an emergency session was called. 47 species gathered to discuss the impossible disappearance. Theories flew. Accusations were made. The Korthan Empire suggested humanity had stolen advanced technology. The Zynthians worried about unknown threats. The Chithraks proposed that humans had discovered something dangerous. But no one, not even the wisest and most ancient species, guessed the truth. Humanity had not advanced along the same path as everyone else. They had found their own way, and in doing so had achieved something that millennia of Council research had never considered possible. The warning came 3 weeks after the human fleet vanished. Every sensor station along the galactic rim lit up with the same terrifying signal. The Devourers had arrived, and they had brought more ships than anyone expected. High Counselor Vrek stood in the main command center, watching the tactical displays with a calm he did not feel. 5,000 enemy vessels poured through the dark space breach, organic ships that looked like they had been grown rather than built. Each one pulsed with bioluminescent light, and their hulls shifted and changed as he watched, adapting to the environment even before any weapons were fired. "Deploy the defensive fleet," Vrex ordered. "All Council forces to rally Point Zirion. We will meet them at the nebula and stop them there." Thrakner's image appeared on the communication screen, the Korthan warrior already in his combat armor. "My fleet is moving to intercept. We will show these creatures what happens when they threaten Council space." 12,000 Council vessels assembled at the Zirion Nebula, the largest military force gathered in 3 centuries. Energy weapons that could crack planets, gravitational devices that crushed ships into singularities, temporal disruptors that aged matter into dust. The combined might of 47 civilizations refined over millennia of warfare, prepared to defend their territory. In subspace fold, invisible to all sensors, 3,000 human ships watched and waited. Captain Mitchell stood on the bridge of the Defiance, studying the formations taking shape in normal space. "The Council fleet is impressive," Kevin said, analyzing the tactical data, "but the Devourers have numbers on their side. 5,000 ships against 12,000 sounds good, until you realize that Devourer vessels are larger on average. Biomass estimates suggest near parity in actual combat strength." Amy checked her engineering displays nervously. "Captain, if we are going to intervene, we need to do it soon. The dimensional fold drives are stable, but combat operations will put enormous strain on the system. Once we start phasing in and out rapidly, power consumption will spike dramatically." Mitchell nodded. "I know, but we wait. Let the Council engage first. Let them see what they face." Then we show them that humanity stands with them, whether they want us to or not. The battle began at 800 Universal Time. Council ships opened fire first, their weapons lighting up space with colors that human eyes had never evolved to see. Energy beams crossed impossible distances in microseconds, striking Devourer ships with precision. The organic vessels absorbed the impacts, their hulls rippling and reforming. Some were damaged. A few were destroyed, but most simply adapted. They are learning, Vrex observed, watching from his command dreadnought. Kamara, how quickly are they adapting to our weapons? His intelligence officer studied the data flowing across her screens. Faster than previous encounters, High Counselor. 30% faster than projections. The first wave of energy weapons was effective. The second wave less so. By the third wave, they are already developing resistance. Thraknor's Korthan fleet hit the Devourer left flank like a hammer, his warriors fighting with courage that had won 100 battles. But courage alone could not overcome biology that evolved in real time. Devourer ships that should have been destroyed simply reformed their hulls, sealing breaches and continuing to fight. The Council deployed their most powerful weapons. Quantum resonance torpedoes that destabilized matter at the subatomic level. The missiles struck home and Devourer vessels shuddered, their organic structures breaking apart at the molecular level. For a moment, victory seemed possible. Then the Devourers adapted again. Within minutes, their hulls had evolved to disperse quantum effects, spreading the damage across their entire structure, and repairing it faster than the weapons could cause harm. What had been devastating became merely inconvenient. "This is wrong," Kaimara reported, her voice tight with stress. "Adaptation rates should not be this high. They are learning from our tactics faster than any model predicted." Vrex made a decision. "All forces, pattern Omega-7, rotate weapon frequencies every 10 seconds. Do not give them time to adapt to any single attack type." The Council fleet responded with practiced efficiency, changing tactics in coordinated waves. But the Devourers were not a conventional enemy. They did not fight with strategy and formation. They fought with evolution and overwhelming mass. For every Devourer ship destroyed, another pushed forward, having learned from the death of its companion. Council casualties mounted. Ships that had survived 1,000 battles fell to an enemy that grew smarter with every exchange. The Korthan fleet, positioned on the left flank, took heavy losses. Thraknor's flagship fired until its weapons overheated, and still the Devourers came. Then something impossible happened. Council sensors, already strained by the battle, began reporting anomalies throughout the combat zone. Ships appearing where nothing had been before, not arriving through warp or hyperspace, simply materializing from nothing. "What is happening?" Vrex demanded, staring at displays that made no sense. Kaimara's eyes widened as she processed the data. "Sir, 3,000 unidentified vessels have just appeared throughout the battle space." They were not approaching. They were not hidden. They simply did not exist, and now they do. Energy signatures match no known species in our database, but hull configurations are consistent with human design. On the main view screen, the impossible became visible. Human ships, each one marked with Earth's blue and green insignia, had appeared in perfect attack formations scattered throughout the Devourer fleet. They had not traveled to get there. They had simply arrived, appearing from nowhere like ghosts becoming solid. Mitchell gave the order that humanity had been waiting 3 weeks to give. "All ships begin dimensional strike operations. Show the Council what we learned while they laughed at us. Show the Devourers that Earth does not surrender." The human fleet attacked in a way that no species had ever fought before. Ships would phase partially into normal space, fire their weapons at point-blank range, then vanish before any return fire could connect. They appeared inside enemy formations, launched devastating kinetic strikes, then disappeared into dimensional folds that conventional sensors could not track. The Devourers, for all their adaptive capability, could not adapt to threats that did not exist in a consistent dimensional state. Their biology could evolve to resist energy weapons or kinetic impacts, but it could not evolve to perceive targets that phased between dimensions of reality. Aboard the HMS Vindication, Commander Lisa Grant coordinated the assault with precision. Squadron 7, phase in above target cluster Delta. Fire all kinetic weapons, then phase out before they can target you. Squadron 12, you are clear for close approach on the enemy capital ship. Human vessels appeared and vanished throughout the battlefield like deadly specters. The Defiance materialized directly behind a massive Devourer cruiser, close enough that Mitchell could see the organic surface writhing and changing. Kevin fired the ship's main railguns. Solid projectiles accelerated to a fraction of light speed. The kinetic rounds punched through the Devourer's hull before its adaptive biology could react. The enemy ship ruptured, spilling organic matter into space. "Phase out," Mitchell ordered, and reality shifted around them. The Defiance slipped back into subspace full just as Devourer weapons fired at the space where they had been. Throughout the battle, the pattern repeated. Human ships phased in, struck hard and fast, then vanished before the enemy could respond. Council forces, stunned by the sudden appearance of their rejected allies, quickly adapted to the new tactics. Rex watched as a human destroyer appeared directly in front of a Devourer vessel, disrupting the enemy's shields with its presence in transitional dimensional space. In that microsecond of vulnerability, Xinthian energy weapons tore through the Devourer's exposed hull. The combination was devastating. "All Council forces," Rex ordered, his voice carrying across every channel. "Coordinate your fire with human phase patterns. They are creating openings for us. We must exploit them." The tide of battle began to shift. Human innovation combined with Council firepower created a synergy that neither could achieve alone. Humans would phase in, their dimensional presence disrupting Devourer shields and adaptive capabilities, and Council weapons would deliver the killing blow before the enemy could recover. Mitchell pulled up tactical displays showing the entire battlefield. "Kevin, transmit our phase frequencies to all Council vessels. Let them synchronize their attacks with our emergence patterns." "Sir, that means sharing our technology with them," Kevin said hesitantly. "No," Mitchell corrected. "It means teaching them how to fight alongside us. They have the weapons, we have the method. Together we win. Alone we all die." The data flowed freely from human ships to Council vessels. Species that had mocked humanity days ago now followed human tactical guidance, coordinating their ancient weapons with humanity's revolutionary approach to warfare. The Corthan fleet, battered but unbroken, rallied around human formations. Xinthian commanders synchronized their energy weapons with human phase timings, striking when dimensional transitions left enemies vulnerable. The Devourers, for the first time in their conquest across 3 galaxies, found themselves facing something they could not simply adapt to overcome. The battle that should have been their victory turned into... The battle had been raging for 12 hours and the human fleet was beginning to show cracks. Captain Greg Mitchell watched his engineering displays with growing concern as red warning lights multiplied across the board. The dimensional fold technology that had seemed like humanity's ultimate advantage was becoming their greatest liability. "Captain, we have a problem," Chief Engineer Amy Rodriguez said, her voice tight with stress. "The dimensional drives are operating beyond safe parameters. We projected 40% higher power consumption than simulations. Actual usage is now at 90% above baseline. If we continue combat operations at this intensity, cascading failures become not just possible but inevitable." Mitchell studied the data flowing across his screens. Throughout the human fleet, ships were reporting similar issues. The technology was too new, too untested. They had pushed it into service because they had no choice, and now they were discovering its limits in the worst possible way. "How long can we maintain current operations?" Mitchell asked quietly. Amy checked her calculations twice before answering. 4 hours, maybe 6. After that, ships will start losing dimensional capability. Not from enemy action, from simple mechanical failure. The drives will burn out, Captain, and when they do, those ships will be stranded in normal space with no way to phase out. Lieutenant Kevin Barnes looked up from his tactical station. "Sir, we have already lost 17 ships. Not to Devourer weapons, to drive failures. When the dimensional engines collapse, the ships do not explode. They just cease to exist in any dimension we can reach. The crews are gone, trapped in some space between spaces." Mitchell felt the weight of command settle heavier on his shoulders. 17 ships, hundreds of crew members lost to technology that humanity barely understood. But what choice did they have? Without the dimensional drives, they could never have fought the Devourers. Without fighting, Earth would fall. Across the battlefield, Captain Helen Carter commanded the destroyer HMS Relentless as it phased into normal space behind a cluster of Devourer vessels. Her weapons officer, Lieutenant Chris Morgan, called out target locks. "Firing kinetic railguns," Chris announced. The destroyer's main weapons launched solid projectiles at incredible speed. At point-blank range, with no time for the Devourers to adapt, the impacts were devastating. 3 enemy ships took critical damage, their organic hulls punctured before their biology could evolve resistance. "Phase out," Helen ordered. But the dimensional drive did not respond. Warning alarms shrieked across the bridge. "Drive failure," the engineering officer shouted. "Primary and secondary dimensional coils are burned out. We are stuck in normal space, Captain." Helen's decision came instantly. She had trained for this possibility, though she had hoped never to face it. All hands combat stations. Evasive maneuvers, full conventional thrust. Communications, alert the fleet of our situation. The Relentless became visible to Devourer sensors, a target that could not vanish. "Enemy weapons locked on immediately." Helen threw her ship into a desperate dance, using every trick she had learned in 20 years of service. But there was only so much a ship could do when outnumbered and outgunned. "Shields at 40%, the tactical officer reported as Devourer energy weapons hammered their defenses. 30%. 20%. Helen saw her crew looking at her, saw the fear in their eyes mixed with determination. They were young, most of them. They had volunteered to fight against impossible odds because they believed in something. Now she had to make sure that belief was not wasted. "All hands abandon ship," Helen ordered, her voice steady despite the chaos. "This is Captain Carter. Relentless is lost. Get to the evacuation pods, move." Her crew moved with trained efficiency even as the ship shuddered under continued impacts. Pods began launching, scattering into space, hoping that someone would pick them up before the Devourers did. Helen stayed on the bridge until the last pod was away, then walked calmly to her own escape system. "You were a good ship," she said to the empty bridge. Then she launched, and seconds later the Relentless exploded in a burst of light that briefly illuminated the nearby battle. Mitchell watched from the Defiance as another icon winked out on his tactical display. "That is 23 ships now," he said quietly. 23 crews lost to technology failures. "Captain, we are receiving distress signals from multiple vessels," Paul Stevens reported from communications. "Engineering departments across the fleet are reporting critical drive issues. If we continue operations, losses will accelerate exponentially." Lisa Grant's voice came through on priority channel. "Greg, we cannot sustain this. The drives are burning out faster than Amy predicted. If we keep fighting this way, we might win the battle but lose our entire fleet in the process." Mitchell stared at the tactical displays, watching human ships phase in and out of reality, while Council forces coordinated their attacks. The strategy was working. The Devourers were being pushed back, their adaptive capabilities overwhelmed by threats they could not perceive consistently. But the cost was destroying humanity's fleet from within. "All ships," Mitchell transmitted to every human vessel, "reduce phase frequency by 50%. Extend the interval between dimensional transitions. Prioritize drive preservation over combat effectiveness." Amy looked at him with concern. "Captain, that will reduce our tactical advantage significantly. The Devourers will have more time to adapt to our presence." "I know," Mitchell replied, "but if we burn out every drive in the fleet, we will be defenseless when this battle ends. We need to survive, not just win." The human fleet adjusted its tactics, phasing less frequently but striking harder when they did appear. The change was immediately noticeable. Council forces had to compensate for reduced human support, taking more direct fire from Devourer weapons. Casualties increased on both sides. Vrex watched from his command ship as the battle's momentum shifted again. "The humans are reducing their phase frequency." Chimera analysis. "Their dimensional technology is failing, High Counselor," Chimera reported after studying the data. "They are extending intervals between phases to reduce strain on their drives. The technology that gave them such an advantage is also their greatest weakness. It is too advanced for their infrastructure to support." Thraknor's voice came through on the command channel, strained from hours of combat. "Then we must make their sacrifice count. All Korthan vessels full assault pattern. We cover the humans while they preserve their capabilities." The Korthan fleet, already battered, pushed forward aggressively. Warriors who had mocked humanity days ago now fought to protect human ships that were struggling with failing technology. It was a reversal that would have been unthinkable before the battle began. Aboard the Defiance, Kevin monitored Council movements with something like awe. "Sir, the Korthan fleet is deliberately drawing fire away from our forces. They are taking damage to give us time to recover. Mitchell nodded slowly. They understand now. We are fighting together. Open a channel to Thraknor. When the Korthan commander appeared on screen, his armor was scorched and damaged. Behind him, Mitchell could see smoke and hear alarms. But Thraknor's expression held no mockery now. Only respect, Captain Mitchell, Thraknor said. Your fleet has fought with honor. Your tactics have changed the course of this battle, but your ships are failing. How can we assist? Keep doing what you are doing, Mitchell replied. Give us time to stabilize our drives. We have one more attack in us, Commander Thraknor. One final strike that will break the Devourer fleet. But we need our dimensional drives at full capacity for it. 30 minutes. Can you hold for 30 minutes? Thraknor's laugh was harsh but genuine. We are Korthan. We do not know how to retreat. 30 minutes, Captain. Make them count. Throughout the human fleet, engineering crews worked desperately to stabilize dimensional drives. Amy coordinated with every ship's engineering department, sharing solutions and workarounds. They bypassed safety protocols that should never be bypassed. They pushed systems beyond any reasonable limit. And slowly, carefully, they brought the drives back to operational status. But everyone knew the truth. One more attack. One final push. After that, the dimensional fold technology would be finished, burned out beyond any hope of field repair. Humanity would have to fight like everyone else or not fight at all. Mitchell looked at his crew, at the faces of people who had trusted him to lead them through the impossible. Transmit to all human vessels. Prepare for final phase operation. We are going to end this battle one way or another. Every ship maximum dimensional flux. We become the storm. Amy's hands shook slightly as she entered the commands. Captain, this will destroy the drives. All of them. Every ship. We will have one chance and then we will be operating on conventional power alone. I know, Mitchell said. But if we do this right, we will not need a second chance. The Devourers will be broken, and the Council will finally understand that humanity earned its place among the stars not through ancient technology, but through courage and sacrifice. The countdown began. 30 minutes until humanity's final gambit. 30 minutes until they would either save the galaxy or condemn themselves to irrelevance. On the bridge of the Defiance, surrounded by crew members. The countdown reached 0 at 0530 Universal Time. Captain Greg Mitchell took one last look around the bridge of the Defiance, meeting the eyes of every crew member who had followed him into the impossible. Then he gave the order that would define humanity's place in the galaxy forever. All ships execute final phase operation. Maximum dimensional flux. Become the storm. 3,000 human vessels across the battlefield simultaneously activated their dimensional drives at levels that no engineer would ever recommend. They did not simply phase in and out of reality anymore. They began oscillating between dimensional states dozens of times per second, appearing and vanishing so rapidly that they became something new entirely. They became a phenomenon that physics had no name for. Chief Engineer Amy Rodriguez watched her displays climb into ranges that should have caused immediate catastrophic failure. Captain, we are operating at 400% of theoretical maximum. This should not be possible. We should have torn ourselves apart. Noted, Mitchell replied calmly, watching the tactical displays. How long can we maintain this? Unknown, sir. Engineering theory says we already exceeded failure point 30 seconds ago. We are in completely unknown territory now. Could be minutes, could be hours, or we could all cease to exist in the next heartbeat. Throughout the human fleet, ships experienced the same impossible stability. They were pushing technology beyond every limit, breaking every rule, and somehow the drives held together through nothing more than desperate hope and human stubbornness. The effect on the battlefield was immediate and devastating. Devourer vessels caught in the dimensional flux fields began to disintegrate. Their adaptive biology, which had evolved to survive every conventional weapon, could not adapt to existing in multiple dimensional states simultaneously. Their organic structures simply could not maintain coherence across rapidly shifting phases of reality. Lieutenant Kevin Barnes watched with wide eyes as enemy ships fell apart without being shot. Captain, the Devourers are breaking up just from proximity to our phase fields. Their biology cannot handle the dimensional stress. Commander Lisa Grant aboard the HMS Vindication coordinated the impossible dance of 3,000 ships phasing through reality, faster than conscious thought. All squadrons maintain formation spacing. We are creating overlapping dimensional fields. Any Devourer ship caught in the overlap has no chance of survival. The human fleet moved through the battlefield like a storm made solid, and everything they touched simply ceased to be. It was not combat anymore. It was something fundamental, like watching matter return to its component atoms. The devourers, conquerors of 3 galaxies, faced something their evolution had no answer for. But the price was mounting with every second. Throughout the human fleet, dimensional drives began to fail in cascading waves. The HMS Courage phased out of normal space and never came back. Lost forever in some unreachable dimensional fold where time and space meant nothing. The HMS Valiant exploded as her drive core collapsed, the explosion existing simultaneously across 3 dimensions. The HMS Guardian simply went dark, all systems failing at once. Aboard the Defiance, alarms screamed across every station. Amy worked her controls frantically, trying to keep systems together through pure force of will. We are losing drive containment. Portside dimensional coils are melting. Starboard coils at critical temperature. Captain, we have maybe 2 minutes before complete failure. Mitchell studied the battlefield displays. The Devourer fleet was breaking, ships fleeing in disorder, but their command vessel still held position. It was massive, the size of a small moon, an organic construct that had led the conquest of countless worlds. As long as it survived, the Devourers could regroup. All remaining ships with functional drives, Mitchell transmitted. Target the command vessel. Everything we have. End this now. 50 human vessels, the only ones still capable of dimensional phasing, converged on the Devourer command ship. They did not phase in and out anymore. They existed in all dimensional states simultaneously, occupying every possible version of space at once. The command ship, caught in overlapping fields of dimensional chaos, tried to adapt. Its biology shifted and changed, evolving desperately to survive. It was not enough. The massive vessel began to collapse in on itself, its structure unable to maintain integrity across multiple dimensions. Internal gravity systems failed, creating a singularity at its core. The command ship imploded, and the gravitational anomaly it created consumed a dozen nearby Devourer vessels. The enemy fleet broke completely. Those ships that could still maneuver fled back toward dark space, abandoning the battle, abandoning their invasion, abandoning everything except the desperate need to escape. On the bridge of the Defiance, every system went critical at once. "Drive failure imminent," Amy shouted over the alarms. "All ships, emergency shutdown now." Throughout the human fleet, dimensional drives shut down in cascading sequence. Some shut down cleanly, some burned out in showers of sparks, some simply stopped working. Their internal components fused into unrecognizable masses. But one by one, 3,000 human ships dropped back into normal space, their revolutionary technology spent, their impossible advantage gone. The Defiance shuddered as her drives went offline. Mitchell felt the ship settle into normal physics, conventional engines taking over. Around him, his crew looked exhausted, running on adrenaline and determination alone. "Damage report," Mitchell ordered, his voice hoarse. Kevin checked his displays. 473 vessels lost, sir. Some to drive failures, some to enemy action, some to dimensional displacement we cannot track. But 2,527 ships are still here, damaged, drifting, but alive. Paul looked up from communications. "Sir, we are receiving transmissions from the Council fleet. They are maintaining pursuit of the Devourer retreat. The enemy is fleeing Council space entirely." Mitchell allowed himself to slump in his chair. They had won. At terrible cost, but they had won. Around the battlefield, Council vessels moved among the human fleet, offering assistance to damaged ships, recovering evacuation pods, providing medical aid. High Counselor Vrex's face appeared on the main view screen. The Zintian's expression held something Mitchell had never seen there before. It looked like respect, mixed with something that might have been awe or even fear. "Captain Mitchell," Vrex said slowly, "the Council fleet has secured the battlefield. The Devourers are in full retreat. This victory belongs to humanity. Your tactics, your sacrifice, your impossible technology turned the tide. On behalf of the Galactic Council, I formally request that Earth join our alliance. Not as junior members seeking protection, as equals who have proven their worth in battle." Mitchell nodded, too tired to feel triumph. "We accept, High Counselor. But understand this clearly. Humanity fights to protect, not to conquer. We will stand with the Council against any threat, but we will not become what we defeated. We will not use our power to dominate others." "We would expect nothing less," Vrex replied. Captain, your fleet is disabled. Your dimensional drive technology is destroyed. We will provide towing assistance and repair facilities. But I must ask, can this technology be rebuilt? Can humanity field such a fleet again? Mitchell looked at Amy, who shook her head slightly. Perhaps, Mitchell said carefully. In time, with proper resources and research. But, Counselor, I hope we never need to. That technology was born of desperation. It nearly destroyed us, even as it saved us. Every ship that used it is damaged. Every drive is burned out. We achieved victory, but we paid for it with technology we barely understood and could not sustain. Lisa's voice came through on a private channel. Greg, we did it. Against all odds, against everyone's expectations, we actually did it. Yes, Mitchell replied quietly, looking out at the stars, at the damaged human vessels drifting in space, at the council ships moving to help their new allies. We did, and now we live with what it cost. Throughout the human fleet, crews began damage control and rescue operations. Engineering teams assessed the wreckage of dimensional drives that would never work again. Medical teams treated injuries. Command staff counted the dead and missing. The victory was real, but so was the price. Captain Helen Carter, rescued from her evacuation pod by a Zynthian cruiser, stood on the alien ship's observation deck and watched the aftermath. Human vessels, battered and broken, hung in space like fallen leaves, but they were still there, still fighting, still surviving. Lieutenant Chris Morgan beside her spoke softly. We gave everything we had. Was it enough? Helen watched as council and human ships worked together, enemy distinctions forgotten in shared victory. Yes, she said. We proved that courage and innovation can overcome any advantage. We showed the galaxy that humanity deserves its place among the stars, and we made sure that when someone threatens the innocent, humanity will stand and fight, no matter the cost. In the corridors of the Galactic Council, where 47 species had gathered for millennia, a new name was added to the roll of honor. Earth, not as supplicants, not as junior members, but as the species that taught the galaxy a lesson it would never forget. Strength does not come from ancient technology or overwhelming power. It comes from the courage to sacrifice everything for a cause greater than yourself. 3 days after the battle, the human fleet still drifted in the Zarian Nebula, waiting for repairs that would take weeks to complete. Council vessels had arrived with engineering support, medical teams, and supplies. What had started as a rejection had become a partnership forged in fire and sacrifice. Captain Greg Mitchell stood in the observation lounge of the Defiance, watching repair crews work on damaged human ships. Some vessels were so badly damaged they would never fly again. Others would need complete rebuilds. But they were here, and that was what mattered. Ambassador Daniel Harris's ship had arrived the previous day, having rushed from Council space the moment news of the battle reached him. Now Daniel stood beside Mitchell, both men watching the same scene with different thoughts. You disobeyed orders, Daniel said quietly. The civilian government never authorized military action. Operation Phantom was supposed to be a demonstration of capability, not an act of war. Mitchell did not look away from the window. If we had waited for authorization, Earth would be facing the Devourers alone. The Council would have fought their battle and ignored our colonies. Millions would have died. I made the call, Ambassador. If that ends my career, so be it. Daniel was quiet for a moment. The Council is calling you a hero. Earth's government is calling you a loose cannon, who risked everything on a gamble. I am calling you the man who saved humanity from extinction, even if your methods were questionable. And what does that mean for me? Mitchell asked. It means you are being promoted, Daniel replied with a slight smile. Fleet Admiral Mitchell has a nice ring to it. Someone needs to coordinate humanity's integration into Council military structure. Someone who the Council actually respects. Congratulations. You get to deal with politicians and diplomats instead of just fighting. Mitchell made a face. That sounds like a punishment, not a promotion. Welcome to command, Daniel said. The higher you go, the less actual fighting you do and the more talking you endure. But you earned it, Greg. You changed history. Humanity has a seat at the table now because you proved we deserve it. In the medical bay, Commander Lisa Grant visited wounded crew members, moving from bed to bed with words of encouragement. She stopped at a young ensign who had lost an arm when his ship's dimensional drive failed. How are you feeling, Ensign Baker? Lisa asked gently. The young man managed a weak smile. Better than the alternatives, ma'am. I am alive. That is more than a lot of people can say. It is, Lisa agreed. You fought well. All of you did. Earth will remember what you sacrificed here. Was it worth it? Baker asked suddenly. All those people dead. All that technology destroyed. We won, but we lost so much. Did it balance out? Lisa considered the question carefully. I do not know if war ever balances out, but I know that if we had not fought, Earth would have fallen. The Devourers do not negotiate. They do not accept surrender. They simply consume everything. So yes, I think it was worth it. Not because we won, but because we protected everything humanity built. We gave Earth a future. Throughout the fleet, similar conversations happened on every ship. Survivors processing trauma. Officers writing letters to families of the dead. Engineers examining the burned-out remains of technology that had seemed like magic just days ago. Chief Engineer Amy Rodriguez sat in her quarters aboard the Defiance, staring at design schematics on her personal terminal. The dimensional fold drive had been her life's work, and now every one of them was destroyed. But as she looked at the data collected during the battle, she saw possibilities. Improvements. Ways to make the technology safer, more stable, more sustainable. Designing the next generation already? Captain Mitchell's voice came from her doorway. Amy looked up, startled. Sir, I did not hear you come in. You were focused, Mitchell said, stepping into the small room. The Council engineering teams want to study our dimensional drives, or what is left of them. They are offering full access to their research facilities and technology in exchange for collaboration. They want to steal our innovation, Amy said, her voice hard. They want to learn from it, Mitchell corrected, just like we learned from their mistakes by finding a different path. Amy, the dimensional drive saved humanity, but it also nearly destroyed our fleet. If we work with the Council, combine their experience with our innovation, maybe we can create something better, something that does not burn out after one battle. Amy looked back at her schematics. It would take years, maybe decades, and there is no guarantee it would work. Most things worth doing take time, Mitchell replied. But think about it. We just proved that different approaches to the same problem can create revolutionary results. Imagine what we could achieve if 47 civilizations shared their knowledge freely instead of hoarding it. High Counselor Vrex arrived on the Defiance the following day, the first time a council leader had personally visited a human vessel. Mitchell and his senior staff met the Zynthian in the ship's main conference room, which suddenly felt very small and primitive compared to council facilities. Captain Mitchell, Commander Grant, Chief Engineer Rodriguez, Vrex greeted them formally. I come bearing official documents from the Galactic Council. Earth is hereby recognized as a full member species with all rights and responsibilities therein. Your military forces are granted equal status with all Council defense fleets. He paused, and his next words came more quietly. I also come bearing an apology. We judged your species based on our own standards of advancement. We assumed that youth meant weakness, that unfamiliarity with our technology meant primitive capability. We were wrong. Humanity showed us that innovation matters more than age, that courage can overcome any technological gap. Mitchell nodded slowly. We appreciate that, High Counselor. But we did not fight for recognition. We fought because it was necessary. The Devourers would have consumed Council space just as easily as human space. This was everyone's battle. Yet humanity stood when we told you to hide, Vrex replied. That takes courage we had forgotten. Tell me, Captain, what will humanity do now? Your fleet is damaged. Your dimensional technology is destroyed. You have won a great victory, but at tremendous cost. We rebuild, Mitchell said simply. We repair our ships. We integrate with Council forces. We learn from you, and hopefully you learn from us. And we prepare for whatever comes next because the galaxy just got a lot more complicated. Thraknor of the Korthan Empire arrived soon after, his massive form barely fitting through the Defiance's corridors. He found Mitchell on the bridge reviewing repair schedules. Captain Mitchell, Thraknor said, his voice respectful in a way it had never been before. The Korthan Empire wishes to establish formal military exchange programs with Earth. We would send warriors to train with your forces, and we would welcome human officers to learn our ways. Your tactics saved my fleet. Many Korthan warriors live because of human sacrifice. This is a debt we wish to repay. Mitchell turned to face the massive alien. Commander Thraknor, 3 days ago you laughed at humanity. You called our weapons primitive and our tactics predictable. 3 days ago I was a fool, Thraknor replied bluntly. I judged you by appearances and ignored substance. This is not a Corthan trait, but I fell into this trap regardless. You showed me that different does not mean lesser. Your weapons may be simple, but you use them with creativity we had forgotten. Your ships may be slower, but you fight with determination we had lost. The Corthan Empire does not apologize often, but when we are wrong, we admit it. Over the following days, representatives from dozens of council species visited human ships. The Chithraks offered to share bioengineering knowledge. The Velnari provided advanced sensor technology. The crystalline beings whose name humans could not pronounce offered to help design better ship hulls. Species that had mocked Earth now competed to establish partnerships. But not everyone was pleased with humanity's sudden rise to prominence. In the darker corners of council space, voices whispered about the threat of human innovation, about species that developed dangerous technology too quickly. There would be challenges ahead, political battles to match the military ones already fought. Lieutenant Kevin Barnes found Captain Mitchell in the observation lounge late one night, both men unable to sleep after everything they had experienced. "Sir, do you think it will last?" Kevin asked. "This alliance, this respect, or will they go back to looking down on us once the fear fades?" Mitchell considered the question. "Some will. Some species will never accept that humans can be equals. But enough of them saw what we did. Enough of them fought beside us. That matters more than politics. We proved ourselves in the way that matters most in this galaxy, through action, not words. And the dimensional drives? Chief Rodriguez says they cannot be rebuilt as they were." "Good," Mitchell said firmly. "The drives we used were weapons of desperation. They worked once at terrible cost. If we rebuild this technology, it needs to be sustainable. Something we can use without destroying ourselves in the process. On Earth, billions watched broadcasts from the Zirian Nebula. They saw human ships drifting in space, damaged but victorious. They saw council vessels working alongside Earth forces as equals. They saw interviews with survivors who spoke of impossible battles and desperate sacrifices. In schools, children learned about the Battle of Zarion Nebula,